Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we will be talking about a riverside park called George Rogers Park that is located in Lake Oswego, Oregon. This park is very close and accessible to residents around the Portland metropolitan area, and it also offers great warm water and salmon still has sturgeon fishing. So pay close attention to this one, and without further ado, let's get into it. Before we actually talk about fishing here, I want to bring in some context about I will be using in this video about certain parts of George Rogers Park. And that mainly consists of 5 regions I will be focusing on. The northernmost part of the park will be referred to as a rock simply because there are a lot of rocks at that part of George Rogers Park, and I'll be referring to a sandy area where you come down to the stairs. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, once you go there, after you get out of the parking lot, you'll see a green lawn. You keep going down there, you'll see a bunch of stairs, and when you go down these stairs, you'll see this huge sandy area, and I'll simply be called that part as the beach. And if you look at your right side, you'll see this little creek channel running, and I'll refer it to a creek. If you go down towards a bank, once you get out of the parking area, you'll see a bridge. You keep going down there, you'll see a bunch of cliff along the side of a path. And for that part, it looks it's inaccessible to fishing, but you could actually fish there. It's just going to be a little tough getting down there, and I'll be calling that part the cliff. Keep going down the trail, and eventually, before you right into the end of the park, you'll see this old abandoned building. I'm pretty sure it has a lot of names before. People have called it a bunch of things, but in this video, I'll simply refer to it as the factory because I think it used to be an abandoned factory of some sort, but don't quote me on that. So let's start from the north and go towards the south of the park. The rocks in the northern part of the park could be very good for smallmouth bass fishing during the spring and fall months, especially in the summer months when the creek starts to dry. It seems that the cove caused by the low water level seems to be a very good spawning area for a smallmouth in the region. There has also been reports of small panfish such as bluegills and perch spawning in the shallow parts of the rocks. And for that part, I would just say go with your typical smallmouth setup. Singles, net rigs, and crankbaits all work well there if you're fishing for bass and panfish. However, I have seen a number of good-sized smallmouth also being caught around rocks at sunset or sunrise using topwaters. Most notably the Whopper Plopper Classic topwater for really both largemouth and smallmouth. Some people like to stand on the rocks and fly fish with streamer flies, which is also very productive at the part of the Willamette, which means from all the way from Lake Oswego at George Rogers Park all the way down to I would say around Marius Young's, and even go down more to Goat Island. If you live in a region, you'll know what I'm talking about. These are all very great spots around the Westland Lake Oswego part of Willamette. Bait fishing could be very productive with worms, but the only downside to that is a lot of snags. So I typically use this setup, which I'll show you guys right here. This is the typical drop shot setup where you got a hook, and then you got a leader of about anything from a foot, half a foot to like 2 feet, and then you got this weight on the bottom. I suggest you go with this type of weight, which is, I believe it's called a removable weight, something like that. So what this does is once you get snagged, it's gonna be very easy to pull off, and then you'll have all this part, all the hook part and all the rest of the line back, and you'll just lose a weight, and then you could just tie on another weight, and it's gonna save you a lot more tackle, a lot more money. If you use this rig, you could catch a lot of fishing there. Sculpins and suckers are the ones I've seen people catch most common, but also pike, minnows, catfish, and carp has also been caught in the region using the same technique. If you're using lures, I suggest you avoid techniques that involve dragging the bait on the bottom, like a Texas rig. but what I have found to be most effective are baits that kind of just bounces along the bottom. It does not get stuck in there, and that would be like crankbaits and all that stuff. So just be aware that there might be a lot of snags and you could get frustrated. And I fished there for a long time, and that's one of the things I still struggle with. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna keep struggling with it for a long time. So the second part is the beach, and it honestly isn't the best for fishing because of two reasons. First one is there are a ton of people at the beach. You could run into a crowd anytime during the summer or on the weekends. And the second reason is because there is a lack of structure close to the shore, and you have to cast pretty far in order to reach any large fish holding structures. And I could tell you that because of two things. First, once because I got my that was before I really even knew how to fish, honestly. So I have this huge setup with a bunch of tackle on there that's pretty expensive, and I got snagged. I tried to swim out there and tried to get it back. And then, when I swim out there, I I felt the bottom, and there really wasn't much stuff except for like very little rocks constantly you'll run into, and then the other is just like sand and mud on the bottom. So there's really not that much of structure in the region. And I've also looked at the contour map of the region, and it's pretty much just a big sandy flat. It stretches out for like about a fourth away across the river, and then it would drop down to kind of a ledge which could potentially be a fish holding structure. And I mean, I personally don't fish there a lot, but I've heard sturgeons being caught there. So I would say you'll just need lots of weights, or you could consider launching a kayak out there and then dropping a bait out there. This could potentially be effective theoretically. And so overall, this place I would not suggest for bank fishermen, but if you prefer bank fishing, the next spot, which is the creek, could be the one for you. And the creek is the one right next to the beach. It goes all the way up to the dam at Oswego Lake. There are not many spots at the mouth of creek, but like if you go upstream, it could be very good depending on the water depth, which varies depending on the season. The mouth is almost always good for around late May and early June during the bass spawning season in Oregon, and at that time smallmouth and occasional largemouth might spawn in the part of creek channel. If you go a little earlier, you could get some salmon fries from early May, and the earliest you could go is around early April. Last year around that time, I've seen people catching lots of salmon fries that are about, small ones are like about 5-inch, and bigger ones to, I would say, 9 to 10 inches, somewhere around that region. They're getting a little bit big because we're gonna go out to the sea. And I personally don't like targeting small salmon because first of all, salmons have a low survival rate, and because they're small, you're not gonna keep them anyway, so I don't really want to harm them. But if it's something that interests you, it could give you quite a fight. They're kind of like trout, but I would say a little bit more aggressive. The part of the creek from a mouth to a bridge has a wide variety of fish year long. There could be occasional shad runs in the summer, carp during July and August, and suckers during the spring and fall season. Of course, bass and panfish during the pre and post spawn seasons. The only thing I dislike about that particular part of the creek, or the creek itself, is that it either has very, very good fishing, and I mean like very good. I would say like bites on every cast type of thing, or there's no fish at all. So having good experience of fishing in that area and analyzing when the fish is going to move in and out of the creek is very important to successfully fishing there. Behind the bridge there is a kind of like, I would say, a big, even pond-like structure. It's a large hole that holds like about 2 feet deep in the summer and 5 feet deep in the winter and spring months. That spot is especially good during spring, and it could have all types of bass, panfish, and other species. However, summer fishing is tough during that part of the creek, as I tried before, because of the lower water depth. There might be a few small fish swimming around, but you are almost not guaranteed to catch anything if you go there during summer. If you go all the way up to the dam, you can find scattered groups of bass and panfish. If you're lucky, people have also caught pike minnows and suckers there. Warming a split shot rig or a Carolina rig would be most effective approach for multi-species fishing. However, you could also drop shot a straight tail worm, throw some sinkos and net rigs, or try fishing with small active action lures such as inline spinners, crankbaits, and crappie jigs. And these are, if you're a bass pan or panfish fisherman, I'm sure this would be the ideal option for you guys. Core has also been very effective for catching carp and suckers. And so for this part of the creek, because the fishing there, I typically categorize into two parts. First is the smaller fish, which you could handle on light gear, and the other ones are like suckers and carp, which are bigger fish and you'll need heavier gear for. So for the smaller ones like bass and panfish, I typically just go with my micro fishing setup. Two reasons. First, this setup is very easy and light to carry, and that's very important when you're hiking through the woods, because for a part of the creek to access, you need to hike through quite a bit of stuff. And this little, like, I would say, how long is this? Less than 5 feet of rod is gonna serve you very well for travel purposes. This is a Zebco micro fishing, and on this I do a simple bobber rig. I have the bobber and then maybe 1.5 feet, and I have this small size 8 hook. You could go even smaller than this if you see smaller fish and you want to microfish for them. But I have snail knot on here, and on my other setup, which is for bigger fish, I have a Carolina rig on the top. I basically use a Carolina rig. I have egg weight on the top, and then about 2.5 feet down, I run this little. Also, I think this one might be bigger, size 6, and also snail knot. I feel like I have very good success with snail knot through the past year. I think I have a video on how to tie it. It has really given me a great hookup ratio compared to other knots I've used in the past. This leader, you could shrink it down to 1 feet, half a feet, but for this one, I will only use corn because both carp and suckers love corn there, as I mentioned. And the other one, typically just worms. And if you really do want to do some bass and panfish fishing with like lures and stuff like that, I would suggest you to go with a smaller lure rod or just a lighter action rod. That's good for throwing crankbaits and inline spinners, which I do not have with me right now, but I'll show you guys later. So next we have the cliff. And the cliff, people have caught good smallmouth and sometimes even panfish and baby salmon there. It's a little tough to access, I've mentioned before, because it is a cliff and you will have to slide down and climb back up. If you're fishing in that area, we would highly suggest you take a fishing friend or a fishing buddy with you, because the other person could hang on to your gear while you climb up and down a steep slope. The part is only accessible if the tide is low. Albert has tried fishing there when the tide is high before, and he could tell you that it's more dodging the waves than fishing there, because there's little to no place to stand or cast when the tide is high. The bottom of that region typically consists of rocks and also more sand, kind of like a beach, but more rocks, but not as much rocks as the northern part of the park. Most people in the area fishing in that area fish for smallies with net rigs, sinkos, and crankbaits, but there are also some panfish you could fish for. And if you want to cast out far with a worm on a bottom rig, you might even catch some catfish, as I've seen some people do. And that's probably true for most of Willamette River. if you just throw a Carolina rig with a worm on there into Willamette River, you'll pretty much catch anything, and you'll never know what you're gonna catch. Lastly, the factory is a part of a park where I have fished. I would say the least. It is a popular place for people to dive from in the summer and a common place for people to fish for sturgeon in the winter. The part of the river is like many other spots around LO Westland, just rocks, and more rocks. It is a pretty good fishing spot during spawning season. The water is not very deep and lots of panfish and smallies spawn there. The part is not especially overfished compared to the other parts of the park and that are more accessible because you do have to hike quite a while in there, and some people are lazy and do not want to do that. Typical smallmouth and crappie baits will work there: grub tails, crappie jigs, net rigs, etc. And even though there is a small snack problem there, I wouldn't say it's worse than any other part of the park. I will still strongly recommend you to check it out for yourself during the pre-spawn and spawning season. This is it for today. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe for more content like this. Comment below for video suggestions. We will hopefully put out a few videos during this late spring and early summer, where we will talk about fishing the whole creek as well as the creek fishing challenge you guys want to see from a poll on Instagram, where I engage with my audience the most. So if you haven't followed me on there, please check it out along with my other social medias, link in the description below. Fish their freshwater, out.